and stand for the national anthem. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in full force here tonight with all council members, with the exception of Councillor McPherson present. On my left is Councillor Diane Rajima, and Councillor Rajima is also Deputy Mayor, Councillor John Pachariva, Councillor Wayne McMillan. To my right is Councillor Rob Foster, Councillor Dave Thompson, Councillor Lynn Timmers, and Councillor Tony Brunet. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? There being none, is there any, do members have any changes to the order of business that's been detailed in the agenda? There being nothing, we'll move on to the adoption of previous council minutes, and we're looking at the council's regular meeting of March the 5th, 2017. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Thompson that the minutes of the March 5th, 2018 regular meeting of council be adopted. Any errors or omissions? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? There being none, we'll move on to the Mayor's report. And my report this evening is quite short, but I want to take note of a couple of events that occurred all the weekend. I'm sure everyone enjoyed St. Paddy's Day festivities, and it certainly is quite interesting to hear about how the university cities are managing the fallout and the cleanup. It seems to be a more interesting story each year. But it is always a very special day. I went to the Beamsville Lions breakfast on Sunday morning. There was an excellent turnout. The food was really terrific, and had some good conversations with people in the community. And it's great to see so many families come out. It's become a family event where all of the different elements of families will meet there at some point and take up a couple of tables. And I think the food is getting better and better all the time. I went into the kitchen, but I was told if I stayed, I'd be washing dishes, so I had to leave in a big hurry. We also had the provincial throne speech presented, and there will be more. I've been assured that there will be more coming from the staff on the elements of the throne speech, particularly those that relate to the budget that we will hear more about next week. The one piece that I wanted to spend a few moments on this evening, and I hope that you will really turn your attention to the development of the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital in order to keep yourselves completely apprised of some of the progression as it goes forward. and to watch very carefully and to read very carefully between the lines about what is being said. And Luke Edwards asked the three West Niagara mayors to make comment on the most recent report by President Rob McIsaac, which was in the local papers. And my comments are as follows. I'm happy to see this phase moving forward and the vision of West Lincoln Memorial Hospital as a community hospital in West Niagara taking shape. West Niagara is undergoing substantial growth, many new families with children, as well as the elderly requiring support close to home for primary diagnostics and care. The challenges of over 100,000 cars and heavy vehicles on the Queen Elizabeth Way daily, as well as freight train movements, clarify the necessity for access to several levels of patient care and expertise every day. Our collective goal as communities is to ensure this project moves forward and the redevelopment happens. I'm cautiously optimistic, but know there is much work still to do beyond the commitment of HHS with the announcement of their corporate priorities, which includes West Lincoln Memorial Hospital and the Juravinski. Niagara municipalities will continue to pursue these priorities with HHS through advocacy to the provincial government and their own commitment to funding. Council are proud of the legacy of community financial support, and we acknowledge the public expectation, which is always top of mind, that is based on this project finally getting done. Each mayor is working to advocate for everyone's healthcare needs in West Niagara. And as mayor, I will continue to lead with Mayors Bentley and Mayor Joyner to support the HHS priority and advocate for Lincoln and all of West Niagara to make our communities healthier through a comprehensive system we can rely on into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, you will hear me often speak to the determinants of health, the importance of our communities moving in a policy direction that supports the determinants of health, and having a community hospital that is close at hand certainly is the baseline for meeting those needs. Please keep in mind that you live in Lincoln, where every neighbor strives to be a good neighbor, and where children are encouraged to achieve their very best. And Council strives to work with you to ensure that our vision of a place to grow, a place to prosper, and a place to belong is maintained. Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us into your homes this evening. We have no regional councillors report. And we move on now to councillor reports, and I'll start on my right. Councillors, is there any items that anyone would like to report? Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Timmers.
Thank you very much, Mayor Easton. Just wanted to report that Councillor McPherson and I had a resident information evening at the Jordan Fire Hall on March 6th, and not shockingly, we had over 120 people out. The residents of the Ward 3 area certainly like to be engaged, and we really appreciate them coming out to have that engagement. We covered a number of items from the new development that's going on in the ward, as well as some of the other developments in the rest of the town. We covered the road rehab program, active transportation, road safety issues, speed control, lighting on roads, heritage projects, King Street redevelopment, infrastructure upgrades, and also we're pleased to announce that the 19th Street and Main Street Jordan EA was allowed to move forward finally, and so things will be starting to get moving on that project. So it was a very exciting evening. Certainly we've had a lot of really positive response. And not just during the meeting, but after the meeting, residents reaching out to ask questions and that sort of thing. So really pleased by that, and I really wanted to thank the staff that was in attendance that evening. Certainly without their assistance, we wouldn't have been able to make that evening possible. And it was great to have them there to support us in that. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I don't have anything to report this evening. I think maybe you thought you saw my hand, but I didn't. But thank you.
I did. It's out there.
Thank you.
All right, on the left side, anything to report, councillors? Councillor Majima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to talk for just a quick second about the bylaw open house that was here on held here in council chambers on the March the 8th. So there was a few councillors here in attendance and quite a bit of staff here to answer questions, and there was proposed amendments to the traffic bylaw, the animal control bylaw, and sign bylaws, public and private. So there wasn't, I don't think, as many people here as I thought would come to speak to it and to find information, but there was a few. And we also had some follow-up emails that are interested in different aspects of the different bylaws. So I'm interested to see what the next step is going to be and when we're going to be hearing about that. I don't know if we have any information at this time about our next steps.
Maybe you could ask that under councillor inquiries.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much. Nothing else? We'll move on then to delegations. Oh, my apologies, I didn't see.
For the right, Your Worship.
You had, go ahead.
If I may, thank you. I attended the Region's Culture Committee meeting on Thursday, March 8th. One of the items that came out of it was, and you had circulated it before, is an event being held this Thursday from 4:30 to 6:30 at the regional headquarters, and it's entitled Bridging Meaning in Canada, a Canada 150 initiative. So what this is, it's a representation of whence people came. There'll be a collage, audio-visual hub, a Cuban dance movement, represents diversion and inclusion. And it's in honor of Canada's 150 celebrations. 6 Niagara artists have created a multimedia collective art installation to reflect distinct interpretations for Niagara's 150th commemoration. Celebrate the meaning of what Canada means to Niagara residents and visitors, newcomers, seniors and youths, and Niagara's Indigenous population. The installations will serve as a lasting legacy of the Canada 150 celebrations. And we've got one of our very own, Sandy Middleton, that's an artist at the Jordan Art Gallery. So there'll be music, dancing, traditional native food, local information booths, and craft vendors. So come on out and celebrate Niagara. And then our other piece of business too at the meeting is we took a look at the report that was funded through Creative Communities, Prosperity Fund of Ontario Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport in 2013 at the cost of $77,000. And what it was an economic impact assessment of Niagara's cultural sector. In employment, there is 13,088 full-time FTEs. In labor income, $396.3 million. In gross regional product, $595.2 million. Niagara's cultural sector is a productive asset in its transitioning economy. The role of culture supporting a safe, healthy, diverse, culturally rich community of all ages and incomes. Niagara's growing creative and cultural industries are a key component of Niagara's new diversified economy. One of the interesting things that came out of this report is that the town of Lincoln has 1% of all of the artists in the entire province of Ontario residing within its borders. So, having said all of that, we've got this fantastic study, and what we need to happen now is we need it updated. It should be updated every time that the census comes out. And the beauty of this report is that there's a matrix that's been created to actually be able to plug in the data. So the chair of the committee is Mayor Doug Joyner from West Lincoln. Our co-chair is a resident Joe Henriques from St. Catharines. Myself has been asked, and former chair from Grimsby, and I can see her, and of course now I didn't write it down, and her name is escaping me. But we've been asked to kind of take a look at this and help with the updating process. Part of the issue is we had a half a FTE from the region that was totally involved in culture. That position has gone by the wayside. So this report and the committee, it goes through planning. Now,
Just a minute, Chair.
Yep.
Counselor, I want to be able to help you with this but it seems that it has a number of dimensions.
Yes.
So I think the fact that you brought the report forward and you've advised us that there are things about, there's some good information. We need to continue with information, but there are also some other issues.
Yeah.
The other issues need to be dealt with in a different way. We don't want it just lost on a report that is really for one-way information. So I'm going to, Madam Clerk, I'm just turning to you to determine whether or not it's appropriate for me to ask the CAO to give us some advice about how this information then can be brought in-house for further discussion. Is that permissible under this? All right, Mr. CAO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think to the councillor's particular question, and I'm looking at Ms. McKay in terms of her carriage of community services and something that I think needs to flow through there and something that all of SMT can decide. I know we're going to come forward at the appropriate time with a cultural strategy for the municipality, and I think a lot of the items that you've mentioned, Councillor, probably fit into that, but definitely something that if we could arrange for a meeting, you can definitely pass that on to Ms. McKay and I, and we'll ensure that SMT is circulated. We have a robust conversation and figure out how that flows back to council.
Go ahead.
yeah, if I may, I mean, the town of Lincoln was lauded at the meeting for its work in the cultural component area. And it's though, I guess our committee at the region now needs someone from the region to actually step up and update the study, because, I mean, these numbers are probably all through the roof now with the introduction of the Performing Arts Center, the new theater going into the casino in the falls. So culture will take even a bigger role and a bigger place as the economy shifts. So it was that we kind of asked that maybe it go to, there's a group at Brock, the Tower, to have them have a look at it, but I thought of maybe Mr. DeVitis that was here, because that was the whole beauty of this report is numbers. It's formula based, so numbers can be easily inserted, and whether we had talked at the committee of everyone, there's a big representation of the region on the committee. Go back to our municipalities, get that information, get those updates, and then feed them back in. So
If we can bring it through our committee structure and CEO is prepared to assist us with that, then you will have done your duty.
okay, and then I need you at the region
Yes,
to
yeah.
find out.
We'll do the script. We'll do the script. Thank you very much, Counselor. All right, have I missed anyone now? No? All right, then we'll move on to delegations, and we have no scheduled delegations this evening. We have no correspondence this evening. And we'll move on to reports, and we'll start with Sport, Recreation, and Culture Committee minutes of March 7th. And Chair Ranjima, would you care to provide the highlights of this meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following are highlights regarding the Town of Lincoln Sport, Recreation and Culture Committee meeting held on March 7, 2018 here in the Council Chambers. Full details regarding the meeting can be found in the agenda and minutes published on the town's website, lincoln.ca. First, we received a delegation from Janine Whitnell and Taylor Lenoski of Lincoln Leapers. They provided an overview and history of the not-for-profit competitive club, which has been in existence for 35 years, since 1982. The delegation, Taylor Lenoski, provided comments about the skills which have helped her build confidence and enhance mental and physical health. Taylor also coaches, and she provided a demonstration of her skills for members. We were all encouraged to get up and skip with her, but nobody did. It was tempting. It's very impressive. Committee also received 2 reports of the following. CM 1802 provided information on the 2017 artifact donations for the Town of Lincoln Museum and Cultural Center. There were 12 different items. Total appraised value $1,125. Also, number 2 was CM 1803, a report providing information on a proposal to add a non-resident surcharge for some summer programming so that some Niagara residents from outside of Lincoln can join in on some of our programming after, I believe there was a 2-week opportunity for people in Lincoln to sign up, after which it would open up with an increased fee to those within Niagara. And that was the meeting for the night. It wrapped up at 8:30.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. That last point that the chair of the committee brought up, I don't believe was quite what was being discussed. The motion basically was removing a surcharge that existed that we were doing for people outside, and there was quite a bit of discussion at the committee. It certainly wasn't unanimous when we went through and did this, but you know, there's other examples within the municipality where we do have surcharges, such as the library. So anyway, but that was what that issue was about, not quite what was discussed. Thank you.
Thank you for your clarification, Councillor. And Councillor McMillan?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As the Deputy Mayor reported, during our meeting, we had a delegation from the Lincoln Leapers, and quite an impressive delegation. And part of the discussion that followed the demonstration was a discussion of the genesis of Lincoln Leapers. And Lincoln Leapers started here in Lincoln at Camden School. And Camden School, before it had a gym, the kids started this program in the tarmac, on the tarmac outside. And it just happened that all this reference to Tom Bailey, who did start the whole program. Well, Tom Bailey died on the weekend. Tom Bailey was 72 years old. He has been in failing health for many years, and he passed away this weekend. So it was quite coincidental that we had all that discussion about the genesis of Lincoln Leapers and Tom Bailey's position in that. And even in his obituary, the Lincoln Leapers are mentioned quite prominently. So I just as an aside to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Councillor McMillan. That's very sad to hear. I also wanted to mention that they have aspirations to go on to the Olympics, and they're really going to put Lincoln on the map. So good for him and good for them.
Councillor Pachareva.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I wanted to attend that meeting, the SRC meeting, but was unable due to work. But I'm curious around the discussion, Councillor Foster alluded to it, about the dropping of the non-resident surcharge. When I read that report, I was happy to see that there will be the time lag allowing our residents to sign up. That was a bone of contention in the past, but I thought we were making some headway with a non-resident surcharge. The library has it. The arena has it. Programs are subsidized. Just wondering what the thought process was, and Councillor Foster said it wasn't unanimous, so I'm just curious because.
Mr. Kirkopoulos, would you please provide some...
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, and Ms. McKay may have something to offer if I do miss anything. I think in bringing this forward, there was probably two stark reasons why we brought forward and why staff brought forward this recommendation. One, when you look at the comparators within Niagara, Welland is the only municipality in Niagara that currently offers a surcharge, and I think that's one of them. It's really about adopting a set of principles in terms of how we want to be inclusive. A lot of our residents, as was highlighted at that meeting, utilize services within other municipalities because every municipality within the region of Niagara does not offer the same services, and so there's, I think, a general understanding and a general principle, if you're not offering all the services, that there is a a toing and froing, an amalgam of municipalities that work together to provide services. I think secondary to that, specifically where we consider Jordan and the Jordan Lions Park and the facilities there, as well as the Fleming Center, but to a lesser degree, there are some openings, there are some an ability to attract residents from those areas to maximize the revenues that we have. So when staff brought those forwards, really it was those two, I think, major themes that highlighted that particular piece. I'll note, and you did highlight the 2-week waiting period. I can tell you that's something we heard about loud and clear, both from council and the community, and that's something that we've incorporated here, which is an appropriate, I think, compromise and an appropriate protocol for non-residents.
So as long as, thank you, Mr. Kokopoulos. As long as there's capacity in the programs, then I'm okay with that. And I think we've made great leaps and bounds with that 2-week waiting period, and hopefully that will alleviate some of those issues that we've had the past couple of years.
Very good. Mr. Kokopoulos?
And through you, Madam Mayor, I mean, the only other addition that I would add is Manager Sarah Ain, who was there, who spoke to this particular report, said that this really will be fluid. We will continue to look at what is the uptake for our programs, and we continue to do that. I think about March Break and my own children who were registered in that March Break camp, and the addition of needing to add additional camp staff. So we're going to continue to look at it. If we find that we're getting great uptake because we're promoting more, we're doing things differently, then we can absolutely remove that particular element.
All right. Thank you very much, councillors. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that the minutes of the March 7th, 2018 Sport, Recreation and Culture Committee be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. Now, we move on to the Planning Committee minutes, and I have a motion before me, moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Foster, that the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of March 12, 2018 be adopted, and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon with the exception of motion PLN 2018-21, which shall be lifted to be dealt with separately. Councillor Thompson, did you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly, we'd like to obviously bring the whole minutes in, with the exception of that report, which we'd like to defer that portion back to staff to bring forward again with some more recommendations at the next Planning Committee. So if you'd like, I can give the highlights of the meeting and then move forward.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Our meeting of March 12th of the Planning Committee, we had one public hearing, which was regarding an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application by Cuesta Estates and Winery, report PL 1814. This report was presented by Brenda Nees on behalf of Matt Giffen for Cuesta Estates and Winery Incorporated. Following the public hearing, committee received one delegation and a presenter regarding PL 18-14. Committee then dealt with 3 staff reports addressing matters including PL 1815, which is zoning bylaw amendment for 4888 Ontario Street by Lezac Niagara Limited. PL 18-16 is zoning bylaw amendment application for temporary use by 534754 Holdings Incorporated. And PL 18-17, Ministry of Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs, implementation procedures for agricultural systems in Ontario's Greater Golden Horseshoe. And that was the meeting, Madam Mayor. Thank you. And I don't know if, Madam Mayor, if I might, I don't know if the CAO would like to speak to that deferral or not, but certainly. Your choice.
We're going to deal with that after
Okay.
we deal with this motion for the minutes. Where is that? Better have the mover and the seconder see who did addition, I'd ask the clerk to include the deferral part in the motion as it's written. All right, I'll read this motion again, and then we can have staff speak to the motion as well. Moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Foster that the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of March 12, 2018 be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon with the exception of motion PLN 2018-21, which shall be lifted to be dealt with separately, and the report be deferred back to staff to further review and come back to another scheduled planning meeting. And that addition has been initialed by the mover and seconder. So I'm going to ask now if there's any further comments about your deferral.
Certainly, Madam Mayor, I think it's after some discussion with the ward councillors, there's some additions and thoughts that have been brought forward that need to be considered and brought together by staff. So I think it's prudent that we do this.
All right.
And perhaps the CAO wants to elaborate on that.
Okay, Mr. Kirkopoulos, do you have any comments?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, generally on this particular item, you recall at our planning meeting the other week that we had a very robust discussion on this particular item. Council had and committee had heard from staff the innovative, I think, pilot project we were looking at moving forward and the work we had put on that in terms of studying both some of the inputs and data that had come out of some preliminary studies around parking, but as well listening to residents. Since that time and since that motion was not approved at that particular point in time, there has been a number of conversations with the ward councillors, both in the community as well as with staff, and a subsequent idea or an additional idea was brought forward that would look at some temporary parking within that particular precinct. And so I think, considering all of that, the direction to come back to staff or to go back to staff and for us to come back with a plan that I think still looks at the pilot project we brought forward and potentially introduces a sort of fee for that, because there was a lot of conversation around fees, as well as looking at a pilot project that would see some on-street parking, are both things that, as a senior management team over the last number of hours and days we've talked about, and something that we can absolutely report back to a future planning meeting on. So I think it's a good compromise. I think it's something that, we've heard both from the ward councillors as well as others in the community, something that we can revisit.
Thank you very much. And I would just add that this does have a number of different parts to it, but I certainly wouldn't want anyone in the community to be thinking that there isn't a very progressive nature to the policy implementation that we hope to achieve here. And that, of course, started with the fact that we wanted a clearer policy, because the parking policy that we have across the town is challenged by the fact that when people move into communities such as Lincoln Square, they don't leave their large vehicles behind, and sometimes they don't fit into the garages where the second parking spot is. They're quite reliant on their vehicles, and they're not always retired. And so they're leaving for work, and it becomes quite it can become quite congested. So I'm pleased to see that we're going to look at all of these elements, because we have put resources behind this policy direction. And to the extent that we had IBI look at the specifics, and I believe that this is a creative methodology. So we now want to be able to implement something that's going to work and work well. So I think we're moving in a good direction. Thank you very much. Yes, certainly, Councillor Foster.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Diane and I both have had a number of discussions on this, and we really think this is a good idea, deferring it back. Of course, we're not allowed to talk about that this evening because of the deferral, but this is a good case of a good compromise to go and make sure that we do this right. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's very good. Thank you very much, Councillor. All right, so your pleasure on the motion. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. And that looks after the lifted report. And I now have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Thompson that the minutes of the March 12th, 2018 Planning Committee be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Any questions to the motion? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. All right. Thank you, councillors, for that discussion. And now we move on to the Infrastructure Committee, and I'll ask Councillor Brunet if you would provide highlights, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The following are highlights regarding the minutes of the Infrastructure Committee held on March 14th, 2018. The committee received a number of information reports that evening. The first being PW 1807, the Prudham's Water Main Upgrade Design Project Award. The second one was the PW 1808, the Red Maple Avenue, Bridgeport Drive, and Queen Victoria Urbanization Design Project Award. The third, PW 1809, Lincoln Avenue South Urbanization Design Project Award. And the last report that evening was PW 18-10, Public Works Quarterly Project and Program Status Report. Just a couple of other asides. The Director of Public Works noted that evening that as a result of Council's early adoption of the town's budget, Council has been able to secure contracts at reasonable rates, in other words, within budget or below budget, early in the construction project period. So that's a very positive sign. During councillor inquiries, just a couple of notes. We have regional staff, the director or the Commissioner, Ron Tripp, is going to be coming to our infrastructure meeting in April, along with some staff. So committee members were encouraged to list some discussion points, and we'll review those so that we're fully prepared for that regional staff meeting in infrastructure in April. We had some good discussion about the director looking and investigating at opportunities on bundling some projects to obtain some better pricing. And we asked Carrie Beatty to engage residents with regards to a direct mailing for the Frost Road Bridge, which is an upcoming project. Meeting adjourned at 8:10. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. There are questions. Councillor Foster and then Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the last comment from the chair was concerning this bundling of project tenders and stuff like that. I'll be fascinated as that report comes back on sort of the avenue with it. I can understand in some areas where some of the tendering together makes an awful lot of sense. But, you know, just again, over the years, looking at some of our big construction efforts and various things like that, it sometimes is a little more difficult, even if we end up with the same engineering firm that's working on things, to split them out or to have them all bundled together in some form. So I'll be fascinated to see where Dave comes back with that. That should lead to some very interesting discussions. Thank you.
Very good. And Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to thank Director Graham and his staff for getting the tender together for the Red Maple area urbanization design project. So it was one of the items that was brought forward at our resident information evening, and we expressed that was coming, and I'm glad to see that it came to fruition. So thanks to the staff for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Thompson that the minutes of the March 14th, 2018 Infrastructure Committee meeting be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Any further questions? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Now, the clerk has advised me that Councillor Njima absented herself in the room because the Red Maple development was included in the minutes, and Councillor Njima is going to explain her reason for leaving.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Earlier on in the budget process, I declared a conflict regarding the Red Maple upgrades to the infrastructure as my employment with Niagara Planning Group. The developers in the area are a client, so my decision was to declare a conflict with that, and I didn't realize it was in the minutes. So thank you very much for that, and I'll be submitting a, that's exactly right, a paper copy.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councillor. Moving on now to the confirmation of compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. We do have a motion of compliance this evening, moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor McMillan, that Council has considered the requirements of paragraph 17 of Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, and concludes that no further notice of public meeting is required in the matter of the following proposed amendments to zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1. Number 2018-14Z508 to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1, Lezac Niagara Limited. Number 2018-15-Z509 to amend zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1, 534754 Holdings Limited. Number 2018-16-Z510 to amend zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1, 1254349 Ontario Limited. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. We have 7 bylaws to consider this evening, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Njima, that leave be given to introduce the following bylaw, number 2014-14-Z508, to amend zoning bylaw number 93-14-Z1, Lezac Niagara Limited. Number 2018-15-Z509 to amend zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1, 534754 Holdings Limited. Number 2018-16-Z510 to amend zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1, 1254349 Ontario Limited. Number 2018-17 to authorize a permit system for special events. Number 2018-18 to authorize a site plan agreement, Old Oak Manor, Inc. Number 2018-19 to stop up and close part of the road described as Kaufman Lane on registered plan 30M-322 in the town of Lincoln. Number 2018-20 to authorize the conveyance of parts 1, 2, and 4 on reference plan 30R-15133 in the town of Lincoln to the United Mennonite Home for the Aged. Councillors, your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that bylaws number 2018-14-Z508, 15-Z509, 16-Z510, 17, 2018-18, 2018-19, 2018-20, read a first time, be now read a second and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Pleasure on the motion. There's going to be a new rule about how many bylaws. Okay, thank you very much. Are there any councillor inquiries? Councillor Njima, did you have something from earlier?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I don't know if there's any information on this or not, but I'm wondering if we know what the next step in that bylaw review process is. If not, I'm happy to wait and hear back about that at another meeting.
Okay. Kathleen Misdale, please. Director of Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In regards to the Public Information House, there were a number of comments received. We do expect whenever you'll have a PIC, there's additional comments that will be sent in following the PIC. So we usually allow a little bit of time for people to, send their comments once they've gone to a PIC. Some of those bylaws we suspect will require some further consultation. In regards to the animal care and control bylaw, staff will have to prepare an RFP to put that out for tender, and at that point, that bylaw will be brought back to committee for consideration as well as the RFP.
Okay, thank you. So we've got some time left before it's coming back to us. Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else? Any other councillor inquiries? There being none, are there any notices of motion? There being none, are there any announcements? Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to be brief. There are two open houses coming up next week, the Transportation Master Plan open houses. The first one taking place on Tuesday, March 27th at the Beamsville Fleming Center. The following evening, Wednesday, March the 28th at the Jordan Fire Hall, 6 to 8 p.m. for both meetings. The town of Lincoln is developing a long-range transportation master plan to focus on key areas such as roads, goods movements, transit and active transportation, walking and cycling. This is your call to action. We need your help to shape the future of transportation in Lincoln. So we invite those people who live, work, and play in Lincoln to come. Some of the discussion points that we've talked about this evening: traffic operations, complete streets, on-street parking, road network and travel demands, GoHub study integration, active transportation, pedestrian cycling and networks, and transit opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to highlight that the ECDEV, the Economic Development Survey, is ongoing online at lincoln.ca, and also that there's a public open house on March 21st at the Fleming Center from 2 to 4 for the economic development. So just as a highlight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I would like to extend publicly to Councillor Brunet and his family the sympathies of council and on the death of his father, and we were able to share some moments with the family over the last few days, and it was a beautiful service for your dad, Tony, and we hope that the days get easier. Okay. And Mr. Kirkopoulos, did you have it? No, that's fine. Thank you very much. All right. I have a motion. I have a motion moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Foster that council adjourn to closed session in order to address opposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land by the municipality or local board, a matter pertaining to the acquisition of land by the town. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried, and we'll be adjourning to the Beamsville room. But before we do that, I just want to note for the record that this evening we had a number of staff in attendance to assist council with their duties, and on my right is Julie Kirkolos, who is the legislative coordinator but also the acting clerk. From the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, we have Michael Kirkopoulos and Paul Deaney, the Economic Development Officer. We also have in the gallery Angela Safani, the Director of Finance and Administration, Planning and Development, Kathleen Dale, the Director of Planning and Development, from Public Works, Dave Graham, the Director of Public Works, and also Community Services, Shannon McKay, the Acting Director of Community Services. Thank you all very much for attending. So we will adjourn.